Hi, welcome to the Pedagogy for Equity video on writing. This short video is intended to provide a starting point to consider how you can develop your own practice and consider an equitable approach to teaching writing. Throughout this video, there are pause points for further reading to consider if you wish.
The Education Endowment Fund have summarised the evidence around improving literacy in early years, primary and secondary as guidance reports. Each of these guides makes a number of evidence-based recommendations about improving writing, with a particular focus on closing the poverty-related attainment gap. This QR link takes you to the 4 literacy guidance reports. The recommendations on this slide are from the EEF Preparing for Literacy Guidance Report. Effective writing is underpinned by children's expressive language capabilities. Research evidence has shown that by the time children reach the age of 5 years, the expressive vocabulary gap between children from the richest and poorest backgrounds is around 18 months. It is therefore important to develop and monitor children's ability to formulate and articulate increasingly sophisticated sentences and express them in writing. Children should have a broad range of opportunities to develop their expressive language through play, storytelling, rhymes and songs, and structured listening and talking activities. The number and quality of conversations children have with adults and peers throughout the day in a language-rich environment is crucial. By commenting on what children are interested in or doing, and echoing back what they say with new vocabulary added, practitioners will build children's language effectively. Using sensitive questioning that invites them to elaborate, children become comfortable using a rich range of vocabulary in language structures. As well as developing language, it's important to develop children's fine and gross motor control, particularly for those children who have not had opportunities and skills such as climbing, balancing, swinging, digging, building, using scissors and Play-Doh, threading, as well as mark making. Writing is a complex process to define. Harmay and Wilkinson offer 3 perspectives of early writing. One perspective is that it is a social and communicative act that involves the symbolic representation of talk, and for beginning writers often occurs in interaction with teachers. Another perspective is that it is a cognitive act that involves a range of cognitive processes, including, but not limited to, the phonological and orthographic skills, such as transferring speech sounds into letters and forming these on paper, as well as strategies such as planning, monitoring, and error detection, in addition to higher order composition skills. For young children, writing is also a physical act that requires control of fine motor and transcription skills. These factors place considerable demands on the working memory of young writers. Consider the opportunities and supports you provide for your learners to develop the social and communicative, the cognitive and physical aspects of writing. The QR code highlights some ideas to support the physical skills to improve handwriting and pencil control. The EEF guidance for primary stages recognises that producing quality writing is a complex process, with a number of different strategies likely to help depending on the current skills of the writer. These can be divided into transcription skills and composition skills. The simple view of writing is used as a model to support educators to understand the complex nature of writing. It highlights the different skills, composition, transcription, and executive function involved in the writing process. Transcription refers to the processes of handwriting or typing and spelling. We've already considered some ways to support the development of the physical aspect of transcription skills. Children should develop fluency in these skills to the point that they have become automated. Composition refers to generating the words and sentences, the creative act of drawing upon the knowledge of different genre, vocabulary, and sentence structures to generate text. As well as the opportunities to develop expressive language, children need opportunities to draw on a broad and rich range of high-quality texts upon which children will imitate or innovate when creating texts. Reading aloud both fiction and non-fiction texts will enable access to texts, knowledge and experiences that children may not otherwise have. The findings in the 2019 Growing Up in Scotland report changes in language ability over the primary school years, indicates that the vocabulary gap between the more and less advantaged children, which exists at entry to school, persists and appears to have widened as children reach the last years of primary school. Therefore, a focus on explicitly teaching vocabulary, as well as encouraging children to read widely for enjoyment, will support children to develop the vocabulary needed to both understand and communicate ideas effectively. This QR code and another at the end of the presentation provides some ideas of supporting vocabulary development for writing. By focusing on teaching the orthography, etymology, and morphology of words, or simply put teaching spelling, word histories and word parts, we can combine vocabulary instruction with spelling instruction and unlock the meaning of words along with the how and why of its spelling. Executive function are the skills of planning, reviewing, staying on task, which are connected to motivation or purpose for writing. And the working memory in the middle of this model helps us to remember that at the early stages of literacy development, the cognitive load might be at a transcription level. This reminds us as educators to consider the scaffolds that need to be in place for other aspects of the writing process.
It is helpful to think about the writing process in 4 stages: getting ready to write, time for writing, feedback, improvement and celebrating success. At the getting ready to write stage of the writing process, we want to give children something to write about, to help them form ideas and think about the language to communicate these. This could come from one of the 4 contexts for learning. When asking children to write about or draw from their own experiences, we need to think carefully about the different experiences children may or may not have had access to. By carefully considering the stimulus, we can provide some of these experiences through visits or visitors, film or images, research, or from talking with their peers. We also need to consider how we can draw on children's own interests, for example, films they've watched, computer games they've played. Drama and play can also be a powerful tool to help children explore a character or scene before writing. This can give them a reservoir of ideas and language to draw on that comes from an imagined experience. We know statistically that children living in poverty are less likely to own books and read for pleasure at home. Therefore, orally rehearsing text aloud allows pupils to become familiar with the genre, language structures and vocabulary of different texts. You might ask children to retell a text so that they can internalise the language needed, or you might set up a talking task with sentence stems for agreeing or disagreeing about a topic before asking them to write a discussion, for example.
When getting ready to write, pupils should know what they are writing about and what the purpose is. This purpose is usually inherent in the genre, but not always, and may require some explanation. Teachers should use aspirational models of the genre you are teaching and identify success criteria from this. We should model both planning and writing to show the thought process, the struggle, and the benefits of changing your mind and swapping words around. The biggest barrier can be putting ideas down on paper for fear of being wrong, but seeing teachers go through this process is valuable for pupils. This part of the process ensures equity by ensuring that pupils have the chance to talk to their teacher and their peers and to access funds of knowledge to enrich their work. At time for writing, we should establish a clear routine around writing so that children and young people know about the focus required during writing time. This will help build writing stamina. Children and young people will be working from their drawings, plans and notes. We should display success criteria and models of good practice. It isn't a memory test. We're asking pupils to learn a skill and implement it in their own work, which takes time and practice, so we want to give them all the tools possible to succeed. Feedback is most effective if delivered as soon as possible after writing has taken place. This is an opportunity for discussion, for example, to read aloud to the teacher or peer if comfortable, and to ask their group for advice. Good examples of this can be shared with the whole class using a visualiser, and the class can identify where they meet success criteria and where it could improve. Feedback should also focus on strengths as well as next steps and should relate to the success criteria. That was the focus of the lesson, and that should be the focus of any feedback. It is good practice for feedback to originate from a different voice for each chunk of writing. Self, peer and teacher feedback can contribute to this. One of the things schools can strive for in their practice is a more equitable approach to teaching writing. This can be achieved by teaching new vocabulary to level the knowledge playing field. We should carefully consider the stimulus for writing where pupils may have poverty of experience in comparison to their peers, and should consider, is this accessible? Does it play to their strengths? An asset-based approach means that we value the skills, knowledge and connections learners bring to their writing from their own households and experiences. And by creating opportunities for listening and talking, we give learners access to the ideas and experiences of others to enrich their own writing. It is important to plan for differentiation and think about what learning and teaching or assessment might need to be adapted at different stages of the writing process. Tomlinson offers 4 different aspects to think about. Firstly, the content, where we consider the experiences and interests of learners and how we might adapt that content to meet their needs. We should also consider the process by looking at how we could use or remove writing scaffolds, chunk up the learning, use visual prompts, or provide further dialogue and discussion to support or challenge learners. We should also consider the product by looking at how we can provide breadth, depth and application of learning through the choice of an end product. For example, if the purpose of writing is to persuade, your end product may be a letter, a poster or an advert. Finally, consider your learning environment. How can you provide opportunities to work with peers, the teacher, to work independently and to build a community of writers? This slide gives a few practical ideas for differentiation of the content, process, product and learning environment. But ultimately, differentiation is about ensuring equity of access and experience through the pedagogy described earlier in this presentation.
Finally, please find some further reading and watching by following the QR codes provided. Thank you.